Evan Hansen is perhaps the most innovative show of the past decade to come onto the Broadway scene. The main focus of the story all had to do with social media and the impact that one death can have and how the larger community on the internet reacts. Personally, I love this show, and so did critics and audiences when they first saw it back in 2016. It also established Ben Platt as a force to be reckoned with both as a musician and as an actor. In the years since Evan Hansen premiered on Broadway, many people have stated the fundamental flaws with the show and with the main character of Evan Hansen. Many people say that Ben Platt made the show, and without him, you had a very fundamentally flawed show with a character that should get no sympathy from the audience. Many critics have also noted that 50 years from now, the show will be very dated, as it's very much set in the present and what's going on with social media now. I will say that many of these points are valid and have merit, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over why I either disagree or agree with these points, and what I think will happen to Evan Hansen in the future. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The first main issue is that of Evan Hansen. Yes, he's a very sympathetic character, and we want him to get the girl and get the happy ending. But how he goes about doing that is not only morally wrong, but also what he does to the family. Evan sings a whole song dedicated to an event between him and Connor that never actually happened. And while he doesn't do this maliciously or to hurt the Connors, he actually is. Most people say that Evan is a sympathetic character who didn't do anything malicious or evil, but made bad choices and ultimately did something morally wrong, something that couldn't be forgiven. Evan got what he deserved at the end, which was losing the Connors and Zoe. I wouldn't consider Evan the protagonist of the story, because a protagonist, by definition, is the hero, and Evan isn't really a hero. He's almost a false god, a false hero to a family that's in mourning. I would describe him more as the anti-hero, someone who thinks he's doing the right thing, but in reality is only going to make things worse and harm those that he's come to care for. Many also wonder if Evan was a character of color, would his actions be less forgivable? The theory that if Evan was a person of color, his actions would be less forgivable is to me a little absurd. But this does raise a large issue with the production. Every single Evan Hansen, whether that be on Broadway, a US tour, or the London production, has been played by a white male. And yes, there is Roman Banks, who is an understudy for Evan Hansen, and he's African American, but still, he's the understudy. One thing that I don't get is why the main character is always a white male. And if you look at the For Forever music video, every single Evan in this music video is the white male lead, but they also look eerily identical. Now I know playing Evan requires a certain amount of singing, but also a physical trait. See, Evan is your typical skinny, white suburban nerdy kid who's got lots of anxiety, and to be quite honest with you, I've seen many kids in my own high school who I could easily see as an Evan Hansen. But all of them are white. There is no denying Evan Hansen as a show has done wonders for kids all over the world, and it could easily be retitled Relatable, the musical. However, on the diversity front, it's very poor. The only character of color in the original production was Alana Beck. Now obviously that's changed kind of, but still, Evan Hansen lacks the diversity, and this I think could be a major problem. I don't want people 50 years from now, or people even now, saying that Alana was a token character meant to make the creatives feel better. Evan Hansen is a white male who makes terrible choices, but still is able to get away with it and be redeemed by the end of the story, and for you to feel some kind of sympathy for the kid. White males who do terrible things, but still redeemed, is something that we see too much in America these days. Now, under no circumstances am I saying that if Evan was a person of color, his actions would be any less forgivable, because they aren't. But it does give a sense of, well, this isn't your typical story of a white guy who gets away with a terrible thing, and I personally do think it would be more innovative and a step in a more woke direction, I guess? I don't know, I'm kind of new to all of this. Both Be More Chill and Evan Hansen's main characters do terrible things, and they still end up either being redeemed or getting the happy ending they always wanted. Will Rowland, the star of Be More Chill and of Evan Hansen, said in a Forbes article written about Be More Chill that, in essence, Be More Chill is essentially a story about a white male who is able to get away with everything, written and directed by white males. Same thing goes for Evan Hansen. This comment is very interesting because it does speak to while both shows are very revolutionary in their different ways and both have appealed to the teen demographic to a T, it does say about what's going to happen to both shows later on, 50 years from now, and how well they will age. I think of the two shows, Evan Hansen is the one to age the worst. Because again, it's based solely on social media and what's going on with social media in the present, being 2016, but still relevant now in 2019. But yet, social media might not even exist 50 years from now, although it probably will, but in a much different way. And a white male getting away with something might not be as, well, forgivable, I guess? Just like Oklahoma and Carousel, these shows were revolutionary back in these days, but today they are very problematic shows, and in Oklahoma's case was given serious revisions. I think Evan Hansen 50 years from now is gonna need major revisions. But that's the exciting thing about shows now, is what might be revolutionary today might be old-fashioned years from now. Be More Chill probably isn't as problematic, but still, I think the call for a more diverse lead is one that's greatly needed. I mean, most Broadway shows cry for diversity and have them, but yet the main leads are pretty white. Everyone can agree that Evan Hansen and Be More Chill have connected to audiences in a vast and meaningful way, but both are flawed. Evan Hansen and Jeremy are both white males who get away with terrible things, but still get the happy ending, kind of. Also, Be More Chill has its own problems with how they treat women, and Evan Hansen's surge in social media, and how that eventually that will be dated, and it will need to be very much revised. But anyways, those are my points. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and again, these shows are amazing and meaningful, and yet they are very flawed. But the most flawed shows are the best ones.